from our conversation so far, for me, it buttresses the focus that we have at Jacob's Ladder and this idea of, taking a value chain approach to this, to the question of youth unemployment and especially youth unemployment in climate, or how do you enhance employment opportunities in climate? It's this whole value chain approach of what aspects do we need across the entire value chain to fix or to look into and hopefully encourage our young people into it. And then secondly, and maybe that's where we come from, at least the perspective from which I come from, which is what is this intersection between technology, education, and climate? At Jacob's Ladder, that intersection of climate, technology, and education is really interesting because not only are you using two of the most important things, which is technology and education, to solve what I consider one of the biggest problems or one of the biggest challenges of the world today, I think it's a really powerful set of tools to now bring in young people and say, okay, how do we educate you in technology, or how do we combine education and technology and transform your minds in a way that now begins to make you look at opportunities differently or look at problems differently? So on one hand, you could look at climate and say we are victims of climate. It's often said that Africa produces 3% of global emissions, but yet we suffer the most, or we are poised to suffer the most. And while that's true, we need to create a mindset in our young people to look at it and say, okay, but step back, or let's look back. What opportunities exist? Can we be the people, can we be at the forefront or the vanguard of providing the solutions that are needed? And what are those solutions? Can we provide jobs for ourselves? Can we enter into green manufacturing? Can we enter into green tech? Whatever that means, And of course, it's not as easy as just saying, let's transform their minds, but I think that's a really big component of pushing this value chain approach. There has to be other things that come into play. So what's the environment that is being created? Do we have the kind of financing that's needed? So encouraging more investments to come into the continent. So just the same way that happened with the tech industry in this country, how do we begin to get more of those kinds of investments, green investments coming into this country? What policies are needed? How do we make it a lot easier for people that are looking to invest in the green economy to do so? I think we were just talking earlier about different countries and how they've approached the mini solar kits. Is there something to look into that and compare lessons from where there's been a higher uptake? What government policies have been effective at making sure that happens? So I think for me, it's this idea of what's our value chain approach as far as climate technology is concerned, or addressing climate issues is concerned, and what then becomes the opportunities for young people in climate, and what role do we then play as far as technology and education is concerned. And that informs why the collaboration with Moringa makes sense for us, because we're quite excited about young people. We look at them and you see the potential, but we're also very clear that if we are not deliberate about intentionally harnessing that potential, then we'll just remain saying, oh, Africa has a youth bulge and we have the youngest growing population, but that's about it. We'll just be left with a lot of people that are not working, don't have dignified livelihoods, etc. And so this collaboration for me is one of those models that begins to show what is possible. Because again, it's one thing to talk about what can be done, but I think someone now has to take the step and say, okay, let's do something. Can we begin to model something around what that means, So when I think about this hackathon, for example, it's a step in that direction of saying, young people, there's opportunities in climate. Now let's give you an opportunity to actually show us your skills and take advantage of what you're learning from Moringa School, take advantage of the mentors you're getting from Jacob's Ladder, take advantage of the different trainings that we're giving you, come up with some solutions. And as we are hoping, some of the solutions that come out, we hope that they will then now get incubated and hopefully actually become bigger businesses. And not only do they create employment, but also begin to show people what's possible. So I think this idea of modeling and creating viable pilots is quite important, because if we have 1 to 10 businesses that are in the clean tech industry created by young people, of course having been supported by a range of factors, whether it's access to finance, access to mentorship, access to business development, or some of the softer skills that you were talking about. If we have a few of those, then we can scale those, or at least we can scale the knowledge of that and showcase to other people and say, this is what's possible. So young people, you could think about this as a career. Businesses, you could think about supporting young people. Governments, you need to create the environment that's needed. Financiers is actually opportunities in Africa. So it's looking at those different players and saying, what message do we need to send to them to say, Africa can and should be ready for green investment. Please, can we have everyone playing their part?